everybody, welcome to the Pro Wrestling Musings podcast, where there is no place like home, as long as you consider home the place where we nerd out over wrestling statistics. And if you're here, let's face it, you do, and we do too. I am Griff from GA. Joining me today is Anthony from Pro Wrestling Musings. I just pointed to the wrong side. There he is, right over there. We've got Dynamite, we got Rampage to talk about. And this has been a Dynamite that certainly divided some opinions as far as the quality goes, and we will certainly get into that a little bit. But I want to start with the ostensibly the top of the card storyline, Christian versus Kenny Omega. This has been a really interesting storyline because it's featured the champ getting pinned. You know, Christian won the Impact World title a couple weeks ago by pinning Kenny Omega on Rampage. So this has been a story that has not exactly gone the same way that every Kenny Omega story tends to go, but we've gotten a good look at what this might be as far as what the story is going into All Out. And I think that's part of the reason why people's opinions have been divided on AEW this week as a whole, is because I think a lot of people's opinions are divided on how this story is going. So Anthony, just overall, before we get into obviously the main event match on Rampage and getting into more of the specifics, just generally, how do you feel about this story between Kenny and Christian? I mean, do you feel like it's getting you to the point where you're excited to see this pay-per-view match?
Look, let's just face it. The reason why it's divided is that every single person, including us, fantasy booked Hangman Page being in this position. We all wanted it. We all called for it. Everyone wanted it, and obviously we're not getting it. So up until even the week of the match where, you know, the first Rampage, we were still thinking, okay, something's going to happen. Hangman's coming, you know, he's coming to be in this match, you know. And I feel like that, because that's been such a big thing and we're all ready for that change, that has definitely overshadowed this storyline. Now, the story is actually quite good. You know, you saw it even at Rampage during the tag team match where Kenny, as soon as Christian went to lock on that kill switch, he got out of there.
Right.
He seems scared of Christian, and you know they're playing into their long history. You know, including stuff from when Christian first started. You know, where Don was basically like, "Nah, I've got someone better." And he's 10. Who cares about this Christian guy? Like, you know, the story has actually been quite good. And it is all about that Christian has got Kenny's number. He's pinned him. He's done what he said he was going to do. Now he's coming for the big one.
Yeah.
And Kenny is running scared. You know, he knows that he's beaten him. And, you know, now he's very scared. So this is very different. This isn't cocky, over the top Kenny that we've, you know, known for so long.
Right.
This is scared. Okay, I need to take I need to be very, very careful with this person. So, like, it's a good story. The issue is that it's overdone because it's overshadowed because we all thought that we were getting a different story, and that's no one's. Well, it is a fault because obviously, you know, they knew that obviously Paige was having a baby. You know, I'm sure that they would have had to have this time planned off for him. I felt that maybe they wrote him off too close to All Out, personally, but you know, there's no real right or wrong way to do this. Like, at least they're not, I guess, writing him off the day before All Out. That would have been, I personally would have loved that for the chaos, but yeah, look, there's no right or wrong way to do this. So, you know, I think we just need to get it out of heads that, hey, look, yes, we're not getting Hangman versus Omega, which we all want, and we all want to see Hangman beat him. Obviously, a lot of people were very upset that Christian beat Kenny. Everyone wanted Hangman to beat it, but the story never has been about an unbeatable streak. It's always been about Hangman doing the one thing he's never been able to do, which is beat Omega.
Yeah. So, and I mean, we're back to that idea, and you know, we talked about it ad infinitum, so we don't need to rehash that. You know, you and I have talked about it on the podcast before, but you're absolutely right. I think when it comes to Hangman, you got two things. He's obviously having a kid, and CM Punk is coming. And I do think, regardless of whether or not Hangman was having a kid, I think you would have had to move Hangman and Kenny from this card, just because you want that to be such an emotional moment, and there's nowhere on the card you could put that it would get the emotional payoff that you want from the fans, because either it's come right after CM Punk's first match or it's coming right before CM Punk's first match. There's almost nothing you can do with it. So I'm very sympathetic to AEW that they're having to balance all of these different things. And sometimes that does mean that things that we thought were set in stone as fans when we get into our fantasy booking don't happen the way we expected them to happen. I think that's just part of wrestling booking, and it's a good problem to have if you're AEW, because you got lots of different things that you can do, and that Hangman Kenny story is always going to be there. Now, as far as what they're doing with Omega and Christian, I actually really like the direction they've taken it. And I absolutely agree with you that if we put aside our disappointment that, maybe we're not getting the story that we would have expected, I actually really like the story that we're getting, because it's not one that we were expecting. It's ironic that in place of the story that seems set in stone, we're now getting one that seems to have twists and turns, and it's not one that I was really expecting to see. And it started with Christian pinning Kenny Omega, which I think was actually, I think it was a good booking decision, because it shows that Kenny Omega's beatable, and that is the part of the story. That's how, you're getting me to think maybe Kenny Omega could lose the title here. I don't think it's going to happen, but maybe he might, and that's the crux of the story they're telling. And then you bring in Don Callis, and you have this whole, Callis is the one who gave Christian his first job in Canada, and I kind of lost the point of the video that they showed on, I think it was Dynamite. But as I understood it, basically he brought in 20-year-old Christian to job to 10-year-old Kenny Omega or something like that.
No. So what had happened is that Christian came in for one match and impressed everyone else, but then Don didn't rebook him, and everyone goes, "Why the hell didn't you do it?" And he goes, "I've got another prospect who's even better, and when it's time, I'll bring him in." And then they found out that the person that he didn't get rebooked for was a 10-year-old. So
right, okay,
so thought he was a bit crazy about that, but
well,
yeah, so
it turns out he was right, I guess. But I do like I do like that part of the story, and I love the promo work of Don and Kenny and Christian, and so I just think disappointment, and I didn't actually feel this. I was not very disappointed that they moved the Hangman story, at least when I thought about it a little bit, because I did understand that there's other things they have going on. But let's talk about Christian and Kenny were both in a match. They were on the main event of Rampage on Friday. Christian teamed with Frankie Kazarian, the Elite Hunter, to take on Kenny Omega and Brandon Cutler. Now, here's what's interesting about this one from a statistical perspective, is that the match offense tilts heavily in favor of the heels, Kenny Omega and Brandon Cutler. And what's so interesting is that, yeah, obviously you'd expect the heels to get a lot of the heat in a match like this, but one of the guys was Brandon Cutler, right? So it's almost like when Cutler's in a match, the heels tend not to get that kind of heat. So I actually think this was really well done from a storytelling perspective, because you're keeping Kenny Omega strong, right? That is the idea of this. He has taken a pin. He ate a pin from Christian, but he's still strong. And he's basically fighting 2-on-1, because Brandon Cutler is a nothing. So Kenny Omega is basically fighting 2-on-1 for all intents and purposes. And yet he's doing this to the Impact World Champion and this dangerous individual in Frankie Kazarian. So I really liked that piece of it. The match itself was fine. I mean, you kind of knew what was going to happen, but I liked it. I thought it was intense. I thought Kenny Omega gets really good heel heat, and I think Christian, they put over Christian as someone to be feared for Kenny, which, again, it's just, that's all you need to do to tell me that maybe the challenger has a shot. What did you think about this match?
Yeah, so look, as I said earlier, as soon as Christian went for that kill switch, Kenny was just like, "Nope, I'm having none of this, thank you," and then just left. Look, as soon as I saw it was Cutler, I was like, "Okay, cool, we know who's winning this then." Cutler is doing a great job in his role at the moment of being basically the stooge. He's dab bombing people instead of elbow drop. He's having fun. He's dancing. He's been over the top, outlandish, and that's his role. You know, his role isn't he's the best wrestler. His role is I'm going to be outlandish. So you know, he's there to take the pins, which is fine. You know, but look, looking at the strikes are very, very weird. Like 14 strikes versus 59 strikes. It's just you've got two pretty much top guys in Christian and Kazarian. Well, Kazarian's not really top guy, but you know they've made him out to be a pretty dangerous guy, and they're only getting 14 strikes against Kenny and Cutler. Like it's when you break it down like that, it just seems way too one-sided. And then you look at everything else: strike downs 11 versus 2. Grapples 5 versus 2, dives, sure, submissions, you know, no submissions, 7 reversals. Like, yes, Kenny's obviously, you know, an amazing wrestler, and you know, no one will ever take that away from him. But at the same time, when you're looking at 75% of match offense versus 21%, and the 21% is the winning team, yes, you know, like it's just the stats don't match the story that we're trying to tell, which is that Christian is on Kenny's level.
Yeah. You know what I'm actually...
Yeah,
you know what I'm actually realizing? No,
Mm.
I'm with you, but you know what I'm actually realizing is I think there was... We got ours flipped around. The way it's laid out on the page, the pictures are actually flipped. So I was wrong when I was saying before. It's actually... Christian and Kazarian that had 79% of the match offense. So I was totally wrong about what I was saying. I totally misread that. So anyway, take that all back. Brandon Cutler's the joke. That's the whole point. He's the fall guy, and they took advantage of him. Okay, so now with that in mind, now we're looking at, I think, fundamentally the same story, because you still have Kenny Omega fighting 2-on-1. But now the conclusion you're meant to draw, like you were getting into, Anthony, is that the babyface is specifically Christian Cage. This guy is still being put over as strong enough to beat Kenny Omega. So the story is still the same, but from what you were saying, it works out better because the stats tilt more in his favor now that we're actually reading that correctly.
Yeah, but still 14 strikes seems very low for Omega. Even like it's true.
That's true.
The numbers are just too one-sided for the result. Like 59 versus 14. Kenny's meant to be the best in the world. Like he's you know, the best mount machine.
Yeah.
If Kenny can't get more than 14 strikes against two guys, yeah, you know.
Yeah. No, you make a good point. I mean, this is a guy who averages 120 strikes an hour. So this is a heavy striker.
Yeah, look, this match is the sort of stats you'd see when you're fighting against a jobber.
Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, they kind of were, to be fair. Cutler was half that team.
Yeah, I know that. I know. I'm aware. Obviously, you know, I'm not fighting that. Yes, Cutler is the jobber here, but at the same time, so Kenny's in there, and you know the stats show. So we know that Cutler got some of those strikes in. Mm-hmm. So anyway,
I think he got.
So that means Kenny got less than 14. Kenny's not the only one who did strikes in there. So anyway, it is what it is. You know, like I said, I'm happy with the story at the moment. I think, like you, it's been a well-told story, but I just feel that fans just can't get into it because we all had fantasy booked Adam Page winning, Hangman winning, and I don't think, while the story is good, is it good enough to main event the pay-per-view? Yes, like any other pay-per-view. Yes. Yeah. And it's good enough for this pay-per-view because, like you said, you know, you've got the real story here is it's CM Punk's first match. You know, that's the real story. Right. So, you know, all in all, yeah. Look, let's get it done, get it out of the way. Kenny will beat Christian. There's no way Christian's winning. As much as I'd absolutely love the Twitter chaos if he did, there's no way Christian's beating him. Hangman will be the one to beat him, but when that happens, I'm guessing Full Gear. Maybe even what's the New York City one?
Oh, Grand Slam?
Yeah, Grand Slam, maybe even that, who knows.
Yeah.
But obviously the big news here is that our friend Cassidy at bodyslam.net broke news that a certain Danielson is going to be appearing at All Out. So does that mean he's going straight into a title feud against Kenny? Like, I would say yes, because why else would you be, like, if there's one person apart from CM Punk that you'd be okay with zero record going straight into a title match with Kenny Omega, he's the number one person. But, and then have that at the Grand Slam event, between them two. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting. I'm obviously betting that he'll come out at this match. Like, no other match really sort of seems like he's gonna come out. So yeah, that's my opinions anyway. That's where he's gonna come out and probably either attack or challenge Kenny straight off. But we'll see what happens.
I feel like it probably depends on how long Hangman thinks he's gonna be out. So if they feel like he's not gonna be able to come back by Grand Slam, which is only a few weeks after All Out, right? If I'm remembering correctly. Yeah. So
it's not far.
Yeah, so if they feel like he's not going to be able to get back by then,
I don't think he will be.
All right, then
I think
fine.
they'll hold off until Full Gear.
I mean, that's fine with me. That's fine with me.
I think if they did it at New York, I think it would feel rushed. That they'd rush him back in, put him straight into the title match. I think this story's been going for 2 years. I think we just need to give it that extra little bit of time. I mean, All Out, Full Gear's not that far away, so they can do it.
I think AEW should do what they feel like is going to work, and I think if Hangman is not ready to come back by Grand Slam, and they'd either be rushing him back, or they'd have to hope that he's in shape or something like that, then don't do it. My general philosophy is, if you're a wrestling company, don't respond to people's fantasy booking. People are fantasy booking this. They think they know what's going to happen, and I think in a lot of ways AEW is going to deliver. I agree with you. Eventually, Hangman Page is going to be Kenny Omega, in my opinion. But if you're AEW, you got to do what's right for you. At the end of the day, I don't think anyone's turning off AEW because they're not pulling the trigger on Hangman right now. So I think if people are disappointed because their fantasy booking didn't come true, all I would say is just watch the product. Do you like Kenny Omega versus Christian? If you do, that's fine. Then you're getting a story. You're getting a story that you like. So don't be disappointed by your own expectations.
Even if you don't, go back and actually look at the story. The story's actually good.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Let's talk about Kenny's elite teammates and their story that's going on with the tag team titles is a lot different than Kenny's with Christian right now. And in my opinion, it's different in a very good way. So we now know, with the benefit of hindsight on Dynamite and Rampage, the Lucha Brothers are going to be the ones to challenge the Young Bucks for the tag team titles at All Out. It's going to be in a steel cage.
Oh, yes.
Look, what more can be said? These are probably the two best teams of the last 20 years, I would say. Just from an in-ring standpoint, I don't know of any team over the last 20 years can touch these two. And we've seen them do it before. We've seen them do it in AEW before. We know what all four of these guys are capable of. So I don't think anything more needs to be said about the potential of these four men in a cage for only the second time in AEW history, if you don't count Blood and Guts. Look, I
don't, because I think the Blood and Guts is different from a normal cage.
Yes,
and they've done enough to separate them, I think.
I agree with you. It's the second steel cage match in AEW history. These guys, they did a stip match. They did the Stairway to Heaven match, or the ladder match that they did a few years ago. That was one of the best matches in AEW history, in my opinion. We know these guys can do it. We know these guys are capable. So as far as the Lucha Brothers go, let's talk real quick. Let's talk about first their match on Dynamite against the Varsity Blondes. This was a pretty typical Lucha Brothers match, in my opinion. It went just over 8 minutes. Lucha Brothers had 57% of the offense. Heavy strikes. Lots of dives, really, from both teams. Lots of reversals, so lots of back and forth. This is exactly what you'd expect mostly from the Lucha Brothers, and lots of taunts as well. They taunt more than almost any team in AEW. So this was the Lucha Brothers going out and saying, look, these are the Varsity Blondes. These guys, they're young, they're new, competing at this level with a team of our stature. We can still go out there and put together a great match, and in my opinion, they did. So, Anthony, when you look back at that Dynamite match with the Varsity Blondes, what'd you think about it?
Yeah, look, my stats aren't actually working at the moment, but the match itself, so I think it was more of a story just showing how improved Varsity Blondes are. Yes, Luchadors. Oh. Lucha Brothers won, and rightly so. It's not Varsity Blondes' time. It will be, but not quite yet. But just, the fact that they're now able to hang with the Lucha Brothers. Yes, they're not at that level, but, you can see that they're getting there. And that's just, it's really good to see them growing as a team, as a unit. And, give it a year or so, and they'll be the ones going over. It was really good to see that improvement. And, yeah, look, they're improving every single week. It's interesting to me with the Lucha Brothers in this entire thing, because the story... I felt that the Jurassic Express story probably would have been better. Match-wise, obviously, Lucha Brothers and Young Bucks is gonna just be an amazing sight to see. All four of them are looking at the cage and going, all right, who has dibs of jumping off of it? I don't know who's going to jump off, but I'm sure, you know what? All four of them will. I'm calling it now. All four are jumping off that cage at some point.
Double Spanish fly off the top of the cage spot.
Yeah, pretty much. Anyway, I think story-wise, the Jurassic Express one might have actually made a little bit more sense. And the reason for that, a couple of reasons. So, main reason is that you've got the story of Andrade and Pac. And Andrade's obviously saying, okay, you guys can't get the gold without me. I'm here. If you align with me, you can get the gold. So that means, do they win this match? Does Pac beat Andrade? Do they beat Young Bucks and then finally they get the gold? Like, I want them to have the gold. I think they well and truly deserve it. I always thought that they should have been the first team to have it. I don't think SCU did as much as they could have done with them, and I think Lucha Brothers probably were in a much better position to do it. The story of AEW tag team has always been Young Bucks versus Lucha Brothers, so I think it's definitely their time. I know a lot of people want Proud and Powerful to win, but I'm more on Lucha Brothers because they've been one feud after another, and it'll be very interesting to see the win. So if they don't win, and Pac does, it's just there's a lot of different parts to this match outside of the match itself with the Andrade and Pac stuff. So I just feel that it's very confusing. It's kind of confusing, that narrative. Now look, the build between Pac and Andrade hasn't been great. I haven't really there's not been much to it. Cool, they've agreed to a match, but anyway, the point is, I just feel like we saw Jurassic Express fight Young Bucks, and they lost because of the outside interference. Now, yes, it's true that they've been winning pretty much everything due to the outside interference, but the specific reason why the cage was put in was right after their match. So I feel that the story just was a little bit stronger for Jurassic Express getting their one-on-one shot and saying, right, this is our one-on-one shot, especially if the Young Bucks are retaining. And then, you could have that story of if Andrade beats Pac, of Andrade then saying, well, you guys failed to even get to the finals. You couldn't even get the match. But with me, you could have gotten there off of you, with your own back. But with me, I could help you take those next extra steps. Where this way, I'd feel, okay, cool, they got there. And if they lose, you still have that story, but I don't feel it may not be as powerful as if they didn't even get there. So That's just me personally, but
Yeah.
I can see the reason why they've done it, because they're like, okay, let's put on the best match that we can possibly put on for a tag team match, and that's this match. So,
Yeah.
like story-wise, I just feel like Jurassic Express made a little bit more sense.
Yeah, you're not going to do much better than the Bucks and the Lucha Brothers, certainly when it comes to tag wrestling. But as far as Lucha Brothers versus Jurassic Express, I mean, let's just take a look at that match that went down to open up Rampage. This was a great match, and yet for all of it, my favorite part was Giannis going nuts during the whole thing. I love that. For me, that's exactly. I mean, this is a little bit of a side of what the actual story is about, obviously. But when you're talking about AEW, when you're talking about a startup wrestling company, AEW has had some criticism for having that sort of little brother syndrome when it comes to WWE. They'll take shots, and you'll have a lot of people saying, oh, this is AEW. They're not on the level and all that stuff. And I'm not saying that's important. All I'm saying is, there is a belief out there that WWE is still the mainstream wrestling company. That's what everyone knows. AEW, for all the success and all the plaudits that it's getting from the internet wrestling community, it's still, small time in comparison. In some ways, that's true. But look, when you're talking about someone as well known as Giannis Antetokounmpo, one of the best players in the NBA, the man who on a bum leg led his team to an NBA championship. For him to be there and reacting like that, it's not just they showed him and he did, one of those, and then, we never saw him again. He was up and reacting, and guys were interacting. Like Phoenix interacted with him, and was talking back and forth to him. And it was like, that is what I want to see from celebrity/athlete involvement in my wrestling. I want to see them care about professional wrestling, because the pro wrestlers that show up at sporting events, they care about the sporting events. So the athletes who show up at pro wrestling events should care about the pro wrestling. And Giannis did. And I loved every second of this. I loved seeing someone like him be invested in this the same way I was. So I love that piece of it. As far as this match goes, look, I mean, what can you say? This match was incredible. These, again, are just four great workers. The Lucha Brothers could have a great match with literally anyone on the face of the planet. The one thing that was interesting, the Lucha Brothers, again, had 53% of the match offense. That tends to be their MO. They tend to have just over half of the match offense consistently. And it's really because the things that they do tend to be heavily weighted in our stats. So things like dives and things like that tend to be very heavily weighted, and they do that. So what you'll see, and this is a good example of that, when it comes to the big offense, Jurassic Express actually had the advantage, 20-17. But again, the Lucha Brothers, the things that they did weights the total offense in favor of them. Lots of strikes, lots of dives, things like that. This match was just a lot of fun, and I think as far as the story goes, I like that the Lucha Brothers are here because there's a lot of things you can do with them. There's a lot of things you can do with them versus the Young Bucks, a lot of history that you can draw on, a lot of current stuff you can draw on. There's a lot of stuff between the Lucha Brothers and Pac and Andrade and all that going on, like you alluded to. So all of that, I think, makes a compelling story. As far as Jurassic Express goes, I agree with you. It would have also been a compelling story had they won, which to me is evidence that the tag division is actually booked really well in AEW, in my opinion. There's lots of teams that could step in there with the Young Bucks and tell good stories. As far as Jurassic Express goes, the fact that they're not there, to me, means that Jungle Boy's solo run is incoming. Like AEW did not even really want to mess around with putting him in a title match. They're thinking Jungle Boy as a singles wrestler is happening soon, which is cool with me because he's over and he's a great wrestler and people love watching him. So put him as a singles guy. Let him do his work. I'm fine with that.
I just wonder what they're gonna do with Luchasaurus, but
yeah, it's true. That's true. I don't know. I mean,
I don't think they're not gonna have him tagging with Marco Stunters for the tag division. Like, they're as funny as that would be. That's definitely not happening. So, I wonder if they're gonna let him have a singles run as well, or what they're gonna do with him.
Yeah. Well, look, Luchasaurus is over as well. I think people people might forget this or not know if you've come into AEW only in the last year or so. But at the very beginning of AEW, Luchasaurus was one of the most over guys out there. I mean, he was getting some of the biggest pops in the company. So,
the issue is he's never gotten the push to meet that.
Yeah, and that's true.
The thing. Like, I think the thing was that he was going to be that guy, but it turned out to be Jungle Boy.
Yeah, that's true. Well, and it turned out to be Jungle Boy, I think, because as far as if you're talking long-term guy, Jungle Boy's got everything you want if you're talking about a guy that's going to be pushed as a star long-term.
Exactly.
I think Luchasaurus, I don't want to say it's a gimmick because I think people really do like him, but I remember having a conversation very early on in AEW with a friend of mine who's a local pro wrestler where I live, talking about it, and he's a big Luchasaurus fan. And so I said, would you like to see him put a title on Luchasaurus? And he goes, no, he's a comedy guy. I love watching him, but he's not a champion guy. So I think that's the difference. I think Jungle Boy is a champion guy. And he is.
That's a good point.
So now.
That's a good point, yeah. Early on, I was the same. Luchasaurus was one of the very first people I gravitated to because I knew none of the wrestlers. So his gimmick was always really cool.
He's still one of the best hot tags in the business. Just the problem is now his partner is more over than he is. So you have all these cheers for his partner, and then he gets in, and it almost dies down. It's still loud, but it almost dies down for him, even though he's a great hot tag. But that's the way
Luchasaurus.
It's the way I interpret
heel turn
it.
confirmed.
Yeah.
Luchasaurus heel turn confirmed.
I mean, could you imagine like a sadistic dinosaur just walking around and crushing people? I mean, he's physically imposing.
If he was going to do it, I'd want him to grab Marco and just yeet him out of the stand. Like, to basically do what Paige did to Darby.
It's just
but
throw
further.
him into the third. Yeah,
yep.
I'm down with that.
Just further. Yep.
I am definitely down with that.
That's how we're doing it.
Well, I think as far as he does go, look, if you need a mid-card heel, I think there's no reason he couldn't do it. He's got the body for it. I mean, that's really the thing. Like, I know he's got the whole dinosaur gimmick and everything, but underneath that, the dude is still 6'5", 275, moves like he does, looks like he does. The guy's an imposing heel, whether or not he thinks he's a dinosaur. So, but that's fantasy booking on that side.
Exactly.
The central point is Young Bucks versus Lucha Brothers. The match is going to be fantastic.
It's happening, and it's going to be amazing.
Exactly. So the only question over the next week, over Dynamite and Rampage and then Road 2, is what kind of story are they going to put together? How are they going to make that work? And I'm excited to see that.
Yeah, as far as heaps of use. Do you think they're winning?
I think yes. That's just my gut feeling.
You don't think that they're going to hold off to New York and give it to Proud and Powerful?
Oh yeah, I guess I also said that, huh? Well,
I
guess
Proud and Powerful have the match this week against FTR, which I'm fully expecting them to win, which will mean that they are very much in the top 5.
Yeah, definitely. No, so now that you say, I guess I almost forgot about Proud and Powerful because their thing with FTR obviously got derailed by Dax's injury or Cash's injury rather. So yeah, which by the way, the fact that he's willing to go out there and you could see, he tried to move his hand on I think it was Rampage when they had that video package, and you could see that his hand was not moving correctly. So that's look, good for him for going out there. And as far as FTR goes, I hope that Cash is okay long term. And for me, if you want to put those guys on ice for a little bit and let Cash do his thing and heal up and then bring them back, there is no team right now that has more legitimacy when they talk than FTR, because when Cash says, I went out and I said that, I would injure myself in the ring, and I did, and now I'm back. I'm like, holy shit, that's not a gimmick. Like, he actually did that. Like, he could have lost his arm. And
I think giving Dax a bit of a singles run as well might be a bit of fun as well.
That's true. I could definitely see that happening.
He's a good wrestler, so
Yeah, well, we saw it against Jungle Boy. Speaking of,
or let him tag with Sean Spears for a while.
That would be interesting. I think there's directions you could go because he is so good. Yeah. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I think now that I think about it,
Yeah,
I did say Pride and
I think
Powerful.
the Young Bucks. I think the Young Bucks are going to win. So
Yeah.
obviously it's a steel cage now. Obviously the steel cage is being put up to stop people from getting in. So we know people are getting in and interfering because it's no rules. So
look,
they're getting in.
yeah, probably, but the other
Anyway.
the only thing I will say as far as that is concerned is that AEW likes to do these sort of old school things, and in the old school, like in certain companies that was a trope, but in other companies, if you had the steel cage, nobody was getting in, and they just said it openly. No one gets in, and
it'll be interesting to see. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they do. To be honest, look, regardless of what happens, it's going to be an amazing match. But yeah, I fully expect Young Bucks to retain and to lose it to Proud and Powerful at New York, because that's, even though that's a lot of fantasy booking, but I think that's the moment when you've got that big, massive, hot New York City crowd, and you give them that crowning moment then and there.
Oh yeah,
that's the moment.
Oh yeah,
and then that's what I'd like to see. Then you got Lucha Brothers. If Andrade wins, then they can go off and do that storyline,
right?
Where Andrade fights all of them, because that's what we all want, one at a time.
That's that's what I want. When it comes to story-driven matches, there is no match that right now has more of a story than Jericho and MJF. So this is an interesting one.
Can I start off by saying I called it?
You did.
You're welcome.
Yes, you did. So you have earned your stripes now on the PWM podcast, because we had, obviously Jacob called the whole Juventud Guerrera thing. You all know, if you've been listening, you know, one of our guys said that Juventud Guerrera would come back and wrestle in AEW. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, as far as Jericho and MJF, in my opinion, it's a very interesting position for them to be in, because I thought that this match was going to happen in this way. I figured that we were actually going to get a Jericho sort of retirement angle kind of thing. I figured that's what we were going to see. I did not think that it would be the second match between Jericho and MJF in a month. I figured that the fifth labor of Jericho would just be his match versus MJF in a retirement angle at All Out. So, as much as I love Jericho and MJF promos, and as much as I am enjoying the story, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I really like this story, and I like them being on my screen. For all of that, I cannot quite figure out why they had to do Jericho versus MJF the first time. So I'm not sure what they gained from that. So I don't know, Anthony. Do you have any ideas about why knowing that this was going to happen, why they would have done Jericho and MJF the first time? Do you have any ideas?
Yeah, simple. So MJF could go over, and then Jericho can get his moment back at All Out before he goes away for, because. So a lot of people think that he's going away for his tour. Now, yes, he is touring and that, but none of the tour dates are on Wednesdays or Fridays. So he's still very much available. He obviously said that he won't wrestle in AEW again. But yeah, look, I personally want MJF to win, because, that should be the story, that MJF is just better than him. No matter what Jericho says, he can't beat him. But with Jericho saying, it doesn't matter what you do, I'll keep going. I thought the promo this week was really good. I just feel like MJF is just carrying this a lot more than Jericho is at the moment. Personally, obviously everyone's got different opinions. So, I think, I like I said last time, I want it just to be over. I'm done with it. I don't like how rematch heavy this card is at all. It is very rematch heavy. Obviously, some of the rematches haven't been for quite some time, but it doesn't change the fact that they're rematches. There's just a lot. Obviously, you've got the main one, which is Kenny versus Christian, which was recent. You've got, MJF versus Jericho, which was also recent. And then, when we're looking at the card, you've got Statlander versus Britt Baker. I'm pretty sure they've had a match before. I'd have to look that up. But yeah, it's just a little bit rematch heavy for my liking personally. But yeah, look, I think the reason why they did it was just to give MJF that win. So when Jericho wins at All Out, he can feel strong. I expect Jericho will win because I don't think he's done wrestling, even though this would be a great time to go out. He's just gone through, a really hot angle. He's looked the best he's looked in a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
If this is the time to go out, and then come back for occasional matches here and there, obviously on his cruise or New Japan, or hell, even go run around in Impact for a little bit. That would be fine. But yeah, I don't think he's gone away. I don't think he's done in AEW yet. It'll be very interesting. However, there are rumors that JR is moving away from commentary, so whether or not he's going to be taking that position or becoming more entwined with that, who knows? But yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what happens. But I don't think MJF's going to win. I think that they'll let Jericho win, and then that way MJF still gets that 3-1. That he's beaten him 3 times versus the 1. And MJF Jericho keeps wrestling.
I think a lot of people on the Pro Wrestling Musings side, and a lot of people in the internet wrestling community, we like to put together these sort of IRL story pieces to sort of piece together how this worked story is gonna end up. Look, I think if that's your thing, that's your thing. For me, I don't like doing that because I think we don't know. We don't know even 10% of what could be happening with all this. So how does Jericho's body feel? If he's not feeling great, then maybe he does want to get out. I mean, does he see commentary as a viable long-term option for him? When maybe his body feels great now, but he knows it's not going to in 10 years and he still wants to be in the business. Maybe that will, play a factor into how this story is being written. I think that everything you said is valuable, but I want to take the perspective of how is this story going? What are they delivering to me on a week-by-week basis? And for me, and this is obviously very subjective, for me, I like what they're giving me every week. I like the promos of Jericho. I really like that he went out of his way to make this make sense. It would have been easy for him to just be talking and call out MJF and say, here's my proposal for this match. But he went out of his way to say, no, you and I both know that I will track you down every week and make your life miserable until you agree to this. And it's just an understanding, and it makes sense because for the last 2.5 years we've seen him do it, and if you want to extend it, for the last 30 years of his career we've seen him do things like that. So when Jericho says that, it carries weight. So I like that he went out of his way to do that. I like that MJF he can go from very arrogant and snotty to just fiery and intense in half a second. I like that he can do that, and I think these two really play well against each other. So, look, I think it's possible that Jericho wins. I think, like you said, that would be the best argument for why they gave MJF a win on Dynamite. I think it's very possible that MJF wins, because I think they might just be telling the story of MJF is just flat out better than Chris Jericho. And if that means... If it means that they're opening up the door, look, AEW has a lot of long-term stipulations, and of course the most famous one is that Cody can't challenge for the AEW World Title, and I think that one's gonna stay I think that one's gonna stay forever. I don't think Cody's ever gonna challenge for the World Title.
Cody has said it himself. He's got no plans of turning heel. He doesn't want to do it, and he's got no plans of challenging. And now with all this talent in there, he's got no place there either.
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, look, I think. Conceivably, you could build him if you wanted to, but you don't have to.
They don't have to. Yeah, and that's I think the key here.
There is no need for him at that level, so I don't think he'll ever be there. However, at some point, look, it's okay if one of these stipulations at some point gets reversed somehow. It's okay. And I think we've all been trained, and I hate to be that guy, But in WWE, we've all been trained that these kinds of stipulations get broken all the time. And that's just what we think. We think that, if there's a stip like this, it's going to get broken at some point. Look, you can do it once. It's okay. So if you want to give this stip to Jericho, and then, a year's time, 18 months, 2 years, whatever, Jericho's body's feeling good, and there's a young someone, it could be a babyface or a heel, on the come up, and you're saying, we think Jericho is the guy to put him over, bring Jericho back, have him break the stip, and just do it. It's okay. So, to me, I would like MJF to win. Personally, I really like Chris Jericho on commentary. I know that is... I know him on commentary is divisive for a lot of people. Again, totally subjective. For me, I really like him on commentary. So if he's going to join on Dynamite, great. That's great for me. And you know what? If he just wants to go and perform with Fozzy and do his thing, maybe go to New Japan and do whatever he wants to do, he's earned that of anyone. He has earned that, especially after a death match with Nick Cage.
He's coming to Australia next year, so that's going to be fun.
Oh, there you go. So yeah, he's earned every bit of that in my opinion. But yeah, look, I think the quality of this story is subjective. It's up to your opinion. For me, I judge it by how much do I enjoy watching these guys when they're on my TV screen, and the answer for me is a lot. So that kind of dictates how much I like this story. Again, that's subjective. That's for me personally. Main event of Dynamite saw Malakai Black's second match in AEW, took on Brock Anderson. This was one where, as far as main event angles in AEW go, this was a pretty tame one in my opinion. Mostly because you kind of knew how this was going to happen. I mean, there was no way that Brock Anderson was going to beat Malakai Black at this point. So I think this was entirely dependent on how much do you like seeing Malakai Black in an AEW ring. For me, the answer is very much. So I was okay with this. I think he plays his character beautifully. I think all this made me think is I want to see him in a competitive match. Because when he was in the corner, just throwing hands at Anderson and just hitting him with all these strikes and hitting him with all these kicks, all I could think of was like, man, I wish that this was a match that I wish this was like 15 minutes into a title match and he was doing this and I could like hang on to every single punch, every strike. That's all I could think of because he's so good. I mean, in my opinion, I could say that no one throws a worked punch better than Malakai Black, but I'm not sure that those are worked punches. I think he might just be hitting him, and that's fine. I mean, look, strong style exists, and that's pretty much what strong style is. So that's what this match made me think. And in that particular sense, if that's what AEW meant to do, they did their jobs. And they made me want to see Malakai Black in much bigger angles, in much more competitive matches. So if that's what they wanted to do, then job done. You did it. I think probably the biggest point of controversy was Lee Johnson, the whole Lee Johnson coming in at the end. Anthony, if you want to talk about that, I'll go to you first. This.
Oh, you finish what you're saying. You finish what you're saying, Griff. You finish what you're saying.
All right. Well, I don't have an issue with it because I understand the issue. I understand that people are saying, look, Malakai Black, he that's a fully trained pro wrestler in Brock Anderson, he just kicked the hell out of. Then Arn Anderson gets in there. And by the way, the black mass or whatever it is that being countered by Arn, just where he puts his hands up like that and then he just gets kicked in the groin anyway. I really like that because, again, that's like sadistic Malakai Black to do stuff like that. Arn Anderson's a legend. He just kicked the hell out of him. But then suddenly Lee Johnson comes in and now Malakai Black leaves. I understand people's criticism of that. For me personally, it came off not as, Malakai Black is scared of Lee Johnson or anything like that. It came off as he's just beating up two full-grown men and he's like, I'm on my own time. So I don't feel like being in here. I feel like leaving. And for me, that's sort of what Malakai Black is about. I understand that maybe that's a little bit of a cop-out because I really like Malakai Black. I'm a huge fan of his. So, maybe I'm just searching for something that wasn't there. I get it. But that's how I read it. And I think there are a lot of people out there that probably read it that way. So, yeah, this whole thing was inoffensive and in the sense of Malakai Black, I want to see him in big angles and big matches. They did their jobs. So, Anthony, talk about the main event of Dynamite. What did you think about all the events unfolding?
Everything involving Malakai Black is great. Everything involving Nightmare Factory is not. So, first of all, got to start off. Someone on this podcast, that wasn't me, made a prediction about a certain person starting with the letter C coming back to fight Malakai Black at All Out. Do you remember who made that prediction, Griff?
No, I don't remember who made that prediction.
You don't remember making a prediction about Cody coming back to fight Malakai Black?
I might have made that prediction. It still might happen.
Did.
We have 1 week.
Nah, definitely not.
We have 1 week.
Not with like eight matches already on the card. I don't think so. So not saying that you predicted wrong, but
2 more shows, Anthony. That's all I'm saying.
All right, so let's get into everything. Obviously, Malakai Black's entrance is just amazing. Suits him perfect. Is still a spectacle and still great, and I still love it. The promo that he had at the start, where he's basically like, "This is what you are going to do. You're going to go down. You're going to forgive. Yep. You're going to turn around. You're going to apologize, and you're going to leave. And if anything other than that happens, I'm going to destroy you. I'm going to destroy your family. I'm going to destroy everyone who you ever know." Mm-hmm. Perfect. I love that. Love the hell out of that.
Yep.
And then obviously we got Arn going and saying, I know he's going to get beaten, but he's Anderson, and great support. We've had a good couple weeks of fathers in their sons' corners. We had this one. We had Ray basically booking his son into a match on WWE against someone he didn't even know, and now we've got reports about Goldberg deliberately choking his son because he wasn't selling properly. So we're doing a good job this league with
good father-son wrestling.
Father-son wrestling. So look, obviously the match was over quick. Nothing bad about it. I would have preferred it to be quicker. I would have preferred it to be just Malakai Black go in and just absolutely destroy him. He'd get 0 win. I obviously understand why they did, because AEW doesn't really do that style of job match. Like, yes, they do jobbers, which this pretty much was, but they don't do like just a flat squash with zero offense. And I think that this, if they were going to do that, this probably would have been a good time for it. But I can understand why they didn't. So. Yeah. It's not offensive or anything. It's just I personally would have thought that it would have been a 0, but I don't mind that they didn't. Okay, because obviously Brock still is a wrestler. He still has had training, so he can get in an odd hit here or there. So that's fine. I've got no real issues with that. Obviously, the match ended. I think that they should have had him pin him exactly the same way that he pinned Cody, but instead of going in for the wrestler hold, I think he should have just put his foot on him and just pinned him that way again.
Yeah.
Just keep that consistency, keep that as part of the way he does things.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That said, so my issue, the two things I'll address the Lee stuff in a second, but the thing with Arn, okay, so Arn blocking the kick with no effect kind of pulled me out of it a little bit. Now listen here. Okay, I've got reasons.
My mind is open here.
Okay, so when you're looking at a finisher, okay, you're looking at, okay, cool. This is their most powerful move. Okay, Now for Malakai Black, obviously this has always been a big thing, and they did this in NXT where they built it up, where when it was blocked or when it was stopped, it was actually a huge moment. It was like, oh my god, here is someone who can stop this move. Mm-hmm. They've lost that opportunity now. Yes, Arn is a legend, but we have seen Arn get hit a fair few times by much lesser people, and get taken down by them. Arn, how old's Arn? Like, he's not particularly young.
No, I think he's in his 60s.
60. So we've now got a 60-year-old who was able to block Malakai Black's finisher move and have no, like, his arms weren't hurt, nothing. Like, he just flat didn't, like, no cell block. As much as, like, I get what people say, oh yeah, he's a legend, he would have seen everything. But the point is, you could have built up this finisher to be that when someone eventually does block it or dodge it, it's a huge moment, and I think that they just lost that a little bit. That's just why I felt that he shouldn't have blocked it. Like, especially, just remember, this is his second match. This is, he's only used it a few times in AEW, and they've already got someone who can block it, and that someone is a 60-year-old. And that's why I had a little bit of an issue with it. I understand why people didn't, and that's fine. Like, that's, everyone's opinion is subjective, as we all say. Me personally, I felt that they just missed an opportunity where they could have made it a much bigger thing. They could have just said, okay, this move is on the length of, look at how crazy people are about Kenny Omega's. Like, we've got Kenny Omega and Christian Cage. They've both got finishes that haven't been kicked out of in AEW, and that's a huge point. This could have been put up to that level.
Okay, now I will say like, the one-winged angel and the kill switch get blocked all the time.
Yes, they do. They certainly do. But this
so the
is
black mass
very
doesn't
different.
necessarily have to be kicked out of. I mean, I do understand what you're saying. I'm more just playing devil's advocate because you brought that up. But.
Yeah. No. So, like, the reason why I'm bringing that up is just showing you when you get to a certain level. Like, yes, they're not blocking it all that, but again, they have. This is a very different type of finisher, okay? Mm-hmm. Versus them, they've got to lock that in. This is a very quick finisher, okay? So, just like I said, for me, they could have spent a few weeks building it up to be this thing where when someone does block or dodge it, it's actually a huge thing. I just don't feel like it's going to be that big of a thing when commentary could have said, oh my God, this person, whoever it was, just blocked the move. That's crazy, where they just can't do that now. So it's just a missed moment. In terms of the Lee Johnson stuff, I tend to agree with you that it's not a big deal. The big deal with why it's a big deal is I feel that they failed on the presentation. Now, I've gone back and rewatched this, okay? So Lee Johnson's music actually started, and you didn't see anything, commentary didn't say anything.
Absolutely right, yeah.
You heard the music, then the camera suddenly, like, the camera didn't even go to Lee Johnson before they'll say, oh my God, it's Lee Johnson. Like, you didn't see him running down to do the save, nothing. Like, so you just went from Malakai Black beating someone up to all of a sudden, now he's leaving the ring and now the camera's caught up to him. So I think in this case, the presentation of him coming for the save failed the moment, and that's why it might have felt a bit disjointed, that you just didn't have that moment in full of him, his music hitting, him coming to the rescue, and Malakai Black leaving. You had it kind of all around, and that's why maybe, like, I know people probably, he's definitely not on Malakai's level. Is he going to give him a bit of a stronger match? Yes. But, at the same time, he left because he's just had a match. He's on his own time. I get all that. But, the presentation of Lee Johnson here did him zero favors. Yeah.
No, I absolutely agree with you. And the problem is with Lee Johnson, the music hit. And, look, I am a more avid AEW watcher than most. I've seen every episode of Dynamite, every episode of Rampage. I've seen every minute of both shows. When that music hit, I didn't know who it was. Like, his theme is not recognizable enough for me to just hear it and know, oh, that's who that was. If that was Cody and his theme hits and it doesn't cut immediately, that's one thing, because we all know whose theme that is. So I absolutely agree
Johnson,
with you.
Yeah, someone for Johnson, it's definitely not a favor there. So look, I think that might have been why that it caused a little bit of issues, that because it was so disjointed, it was just unbelievable that it just didn't tell the story of what it needed to because of that presentation. And it's a very common thing with AEW that they do have these issues sometimes that they're still trying to work on, and that's it is what it is. No one's perfect, as much as we wish they and hello, my wife is here. Hello.
Sorry.
Oh, man.
Yes,
no, you're absolutely right.
Dinner.
No, hey.
That's,
good for her.
So my wife is now PW Musings official.
Well, look, now that we've seen a glimpse into your personal life, can you be a heel anymore? Is that it? Like,
I,
you're
have I been a
obviously.
heel for? I've not been a heel for the last few weeks, Griff. Where are you?
Well, I thought we started.
This
I thought
product.
we started the turn, but now we've seen outside of kayfabe that you're a good enough guy that your wife is bringing you dinner. So I don't know how to
Yeah,
feel
she's
about
bringing
this.
me dinner while she's listening to documentaries about serial killers. What does that say?
Ah, very interesting. Very interesting. So does this solidify the face turn? I think that's what I'm saying. This solidifies the face turn.
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Let's go with that. So yeah, look, in terms of the presentation and that, yeah, I think just the presentation failed on that last part, and that might be why. My main issue, and I agree with you so much that I want to see Malakai get in with the best, and I just feel like he's now going to be stuck in this Cody universe, which I have no interest in at all. He's gone through Brock, he'll go through Lee. Might even get a Dustin match in there, you know, before Cody comes back, and then they have the inevitable rematch, good versus evil round 2, blah blah blah. You know, it is what it is. But I think a lot of people just imagine him doing a lot more straight off the bat, rather than being stuck in something that didn't really work when they tried it with the factory. But then I guess at least he's not fighting QT Marshall, so there's that.
Well, we'll get to that in a little bit, but yeah,
I guess I'm giving my opinions on that one.
I think AEW is now running into an issue where they have so many people that, like, it's a uniquely AEW problem. I think this has never happened in the history of wrestling. In wrestling history, you've had times where you've had mass talent exodus, right? You've had times where lots of talent ends up in the same company. You've had companies stockpiling talent. We've seen it all. What we have never seen is a time where people were so vocal about so many people being used right, saying, we want them out of this company because we want to see them being used right in this company. We've never seen that many people show up in the same company at the same time. And I think that's the issue that AEW is running into. Because look at almost everyone they have right now who's being placed towards the top of the card is one of those guys. It's either like a you know, someone like Kenny Omega. It's either a legend like Kenny Omega, or it's someone like Miro, right? It's a use him right kind of guy. And Malakai Black is that. So it's almost like, what do you do with him? You know, like, how do you position him? Where do you put him? You can't put him against Miro yet, unless you're saying Malakai Black's our guy, and so we're going to have him take the title off of Miro. Or if you're going to say Malakai Black's a mid-carder, Miro's our guy, we're going to have Miro beat him up. If you're not ready to make that commitment, you can't put him against Miro. You can't put him against Kenny Omega, because if it's not Hangman, people aren't going to be supportive of someone else winning the title. So you can't put him there. So I putting him against Cody, for me, was the one thing that they could have done. Cody is, of anyone else, a main card guy who doesn't need a title. So putting Black against Cody was the right decision in that regard.
I didn't have an issue with that either. I thought that was a really good thing. Come in and beat Cody the way he did, but now he's gone down.
Yeah, I agree. Now he's taking guys. Yeah, I agree. He's taking guys towards lower down on the card. So yeah, he's kind of in a weird position. The way I always think about this, though, is, again, the segments you're giving me, the promos you're giving me, the matches you're giving me, if they're entertaining at the time, that's good enough for me. You know, it's not going to win awards. It's not going to be talked about a year from now, 2 years from now, whatever. As long as it's fine on my TV screen now, and eventually Malakai Black's going to get back to the level I want to see him at. I want to see this guy win championships. All right, there's a lot of guys that come to AEW, like CM Punk's a great example. I don't think CM Punk ever needs to sniff a title in AEW to be considered an AEW success. And frankly, I don't necessarily want him to be near a title picture in AEW. I think he's fine being away from all that. Malakai Black is a guy that I want to see have a championship in AEW. Yeah. I think he'd be a great champion. And I think he'd have great matches as a champion. So I think in service of that, you have to keep him at a certain place. So I agree with you. This right now, not befitting of where Malakai Black could be. The end of it is, you know, potentially, probably a rematch with Cody, as long as it goes the opposite of Brody Lee's rematch with Cody. As long as Malakai Black wins the rematch.
Yeah, that's my other concern as well, that when he comes back, he's going to beat him, which I don't want to see. So.
I also don't want to see that. And I think it would just kind of, like, him coming back and beating Brody Lee, that was for a story. I mean, that was a reason.
Yeah.
There was a good reason for that.
The reason for that was because of obviously what we didn't know at the time, that what Brody was dealing with as well. So.
Well, potentially, but even that aside, I mean, obviously, now with the gift of hindsight, we're seeing a different side. But even that aside, Darby Allin was a better TNT champion because he beat Cody Rhodes. You know what I mean? So I think in that sense, it was good for Cody to get that win back.
Yeah.
There would be no point for Cody to beat Malakai Black at this point. So, but look, I'm preaching to the choir.
But then
the
issue as well is that if he doesn't beat him, does he then retire? Because obviously he did that whole "I'm going to retire because this guy beat me," and if he comes back after getting his head right and doing the training and whatever the story is, and then comes back and challenges him again, and he loses again, does that mean that he then retires?
I think I would be okay with it if he did.
Same,
at least for now.
I would do as well, but
a soft retirement. A soft retirement.
Yeah, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I don't know what I don't want to speculate, but yeah, I think we're on the. I think we're on the same page with this. Much like Malakai Black can hit you quick in the corner, we'll hit you quick with some quick hits as we talk about some of the lesser of importance segments and matches on Dynamite and Rampage. Look, we want to talk about everything, but sometimes we can't talk about everything super in depth. You know how it is. So let's start out with the opener of Dynamite real quick. Let's talk about Orange Cassidy versus Matt Hardy. This is pretty much exactly what you'd expect it to be. Matt Hardy had 65% of the match offense. If you look at the stats, Orange Cassidy ends up winning. If you look at the graph, it's exactly what you expect. The heel's on top, babyface comeback, babyface wins. As a match, fans were into it. Orange Cassidy's super over. I'm not going to complain. It wasn't that pretty, but, fans were into it, so I was into it. That's kind of how I look at it. Anthony, what'd you think about this one?
Hardy got bloodied up. He got his nose broken.
Yeah, that's true.
Look, it was better than a lot of. Even me, I didn't think it was going to be that good, but it was a good enough match. Am I ready for that whole thing to be done? I so am.
Yeah, I'm ready for that.
Is it going to be? Who knows? I hope it is, but I don't think it is. I think that they might do a little bit more with that. But yeah, I'm ready for something a little bit different with that one now. But yeah, we'll see what happens with that.
I think that might be over. I
hope so.
I don't see what else they have to gain out of that. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, sometimes you never know. One of the most anticipated matches on Dynamite was Jamie Hayter versus Red Velvet. It was Hayter's return to AEW for the first time since 2019, I guess would have been our last time.
2019, yeah, 2019, yeah.
The match I thought was, it was fine for what it was. I think one of the issues was Hayter and Velvet did not have a lot of chemistry, so it didn't mesh as well as you'd like it to. I think Hayter was put over in the correct way. She was put over as a monster. She was put over as one of the strongest women in the division, and Red Velvet was just selling her ass off for her. All of that was great. I just think a lot of those spots didn't really connect the way that you'd want them to. And I think it's a combination of the fact that these two probably have never worked with each other or very rarely worked with each other in any capacity. And the fact that Jamie Hayter, since the beginning of 2020, has only had about 24 matches in that time. She went, I don't know if she was hurt or if it was the pandemic, but in the middle of 2020, she went 4 months without wrestling. And then in the last, basically from April 2020 through January 2021, she had 5 matches, Jamie Hayter did. So, look, she's trying to work off that ring rust. She's had 4 matches coming into this in 2021. So she's trying to work off that ring rust. Red Velvet's still young. She's still a rookie. So I think that combines to make a match that was sloppy at times, but I think it put over Hayter as exactly what they wanted from her. So I can't complain about that. I like Jamie Hayter. So I'm not complaining about the way that they presented her. What'd you think about this one?
Yeah, no, look, simple match. Unfortunately, the talk of this match was Red Velvet not hitting that. What was it? One of her moves correctly? I forget.
I think was it a standing moonsault?
Yeah, standing moonsault, and yeah, it's something that she hasn't been able to hit very cleanly on a lot of occasions. So I think maybe she might need to stop doing that until
she might want to remove that one from the arsenal.
But yeah, look, it's unfortunate that took away from the match. The match was fine; it did what it needed to do, no more, no less. Like you said, I think it was just a case of they didn't really have that background to go to. Just seemed a little bit all over the place. But look, at the end, the right person won. Jamie Hayter's now, stood up, shown that she can, she's where she is, and that's the whole point of it. So
yeah,
move forward. Let's go.
Yeah, no, I'd like to see Jamie Hayter a little bit more. Excuse me. One last note about the graph. Just looking at it, this was very interesting. It's a very interesting graph, just because normally, and Craig actually makes note of this in his write-up on ProWrestlingMusings.com. Normally, in a match like this, you see the heel, their number kind of goes up, they spike up, they go down as the babyface makes their comeback, and then if the heel's going to win, then they cross again and the heel wins. It's basically exactly what we saw in the Orange Cassidy versus Matt Hardy match. But for this particular one, it was very weird looking. I mean, Red Velvet basically started hot and then went down and then eventually hit a point of 0 when Hayter was dominating. Then Red Velvet made her comeback, but at the same time, Jamie Hayter's offense increased minute by minute. And then at the very end, in the last minute of the match, Red Velvet, her offense goes down, Hayter's continues to go up. Very interesting graph, and I think, again, if the idea is to put Hayter over as one of the strongest women in the division, they did that. They succeeded in that, and I had fun watching her playing that character. I liked the character that Jamie Hayter came out with in this one. So I'm excited to see her a little bit more. Maybe she'll go against Chris Statlander at some point, because Statlander is the other one who's been put over as one of the strongest women in the division. So I would be interested if they decide to go that way. Rampage, Ty Conti takes on the Bunny. This was a match that was set up on Dynamite. Look, as a wrestler, the Bunny's been around a long time. She's a veteran. She knows how to put together good matches. This particular one, I thought, look, I really like Ty Conti, and anyone who's seen the Pro Wrestling Musings YouTube channel, we did a video on Ty, so you know that I'm a big fan of hers. I want to see her get pushed a little bit more. This was pretty much a dominating performance. This to me was about as dominating a performance as you could have without winning. And for Ty, the only reason she lost was because it was designed to set up this angle of Penelope Ford and the Bunny sort of teaming up. And that's going to set up an angle for the Women's Casino Battle Royal at All Out. I thought the match was fine. Ty Conti got 78% of the match offense. She looked good. I think as a wrestler, she has a lot more to offer than the Bunny, but I don't know. That's just me. Anthony, what'd you think about this one on Rampage?
My Discord just crashed, so I have no idea how much what's happened at all. I lost literally everything. In fact, I couldn't even see you or hear you. So
we're talking Conti versus the Bunny.
Okay. Yeah. Look, it's fine. I don't like seeing Ty Conti lose, especially when she's had such a big winning streak. Like, she's up at the top of the tables there. But like you said, the reason was that there was outside help, even though the outside help wasn't really help. It was just someone appearing.
Right.
The issue I had with that was the timing of it, that she had her in her finisher move ready to go, and then all of a sudden she, it just made her look stupid. and I don't like that. Especially for a war, like someone who's pointed out as a professional martial artist, like she's got black belts and everything.
Yeah.
She should just finish her pinto. Like there's no reason for her to be distracted at that time. It didn't do her any favors. The distraction should have come earlier, but that's my only real gripe about it.
That's fair. That's definitely a fair criticism. I think that's one of those things. For me, I saw it and I was like, okay, it's a wrestling thing. You know what I mean? That's one of those you just got to suspend your disbelief. Sometimes wrestlers are going to look away. It's like referees. I understand it bothers people when referees do that. Look, referees are dumb. That's just how it works. But I'm totally with you on that. Final quick hit here, and I'm going to turn this. I want to talk about this because you and I have entirely different opinions on the Factory. So they took on the Gun Club in a trios match. I really liked this. I really enjoyed this. And I'll tell you why. This it just made me smile. I was just entertained the whole time. The thing, like, I really like the Guns. I've always liked Billy Gunn. I feel like Billy Gunn throughout his career, he's gotten a bad rap because he can't really cut promos, which is fine. But like you can give guys manager, whatever. I like Billy Gunn. Austin and Colton Gunn, I feel like they have that energy, that passionate energy, and it's so easy for that to come off as like annoying and heelish. But they kind of, for me, it comes off as babyface, just being passionate, and it just feels like they're out there and they're happy and they love being out there. I'm like, I respect that, man. You just go out there and you love being a pro wrestler, and I love being a pro wrestling fan, so I empathize with that. And as far as the Factory goes, I just really like QT Marshall. I mean, what can I tell you? I really like QT Marshall. I love what he does. I love his character. And obviously my favorite part of the Factory was not even there. So I understand if people didn't like this match, but I really did. And the finish I thought was cool. I don't know. I enjoyed this. So that's where I come down on it. But Anthony, I know that you and I have almost polar opposite thoughts about the Factory, so I'll give you the last word on this one. Oh, wait. One more thing. The spot where QT turned around and started yelling at Paul White, and White like started trash talking him and ripped off the headset and walked over. I really liked that. That was cool. All right, now I'll give you the last word on this.
Do you know why they were fighting?
Who? Gun Club
Factory and Gun Club.
I don't know, just the match that got made.
There's actually a story reason.
Is there? Did that happen on Dark? Because I didn't watch Dark this week. Okay, I didn't watch that.
It did. I know. That's why I'm here. Because I do. So, Comrado and Solo took on the Gun Club. In a tag team match. Okay, so 2v2. They lost because, and this is something that the Gun Club have been doing. They lost because of a Trunks pull-up. That the Gun Club did a heelish pin and pulled the Trunks to get the pin. And this happened while QT was on commentary. So QT saw this and was like, "Oh no, I'm not dealing with that. You'll pay for that." So that was the reason for the match. That QT was annoyed that the Gun Club used a heelish move in order to beat them. Okay.
See, that I like that because that's such like a chicken shit heel thing to do from QT.
On top of that, so Mark, can you? Sorry, give me 10 seconds.
Here's what I will say. I understand if QT Marshall kind of rubs people the wrong way. I get it, but for me, he is like a parody of an old school heel, and it just does it for me. Like it's funny. I like when he's out there. I find it entertaining. So I get it if it's not serious enough for people to get into.
Sorry about that.
I like it.
So, yeah. Now you're gonna love this. The YouTube QT Marshall thing is sitting at 390,000 views.
Wow.
And is one of the most viewed things on there. Apart, that's not CM Punk. In fact, it's outviewed Malakai Black. It's outviewed everything. It's outviewed the tag match. It's outviewed everything involving that NBA player who his name escapes me.
Giannis.
Nothing comes close to it on the AEW channel. It's 390, and it's literally outviewing everything that is not named CM Punk. So as much as we all say, and me personally, I say, this is no interest to me. I've got no interest in this. I didn't say that.
I didn't say that.
Well, I know. That's what I'm saying. A lot of people feel that my way. As much as we say there's no interest of it, the views don't lie. The views don't lie. He's out. His video's been watched more than Malakai Black by nearly 10,000 people. So am I keen for the match? No. As long as Paul White squashes him in 30 seconds, we're fine. That's what this match needs to be. Him being typical heel, going between the ropes, running around until finally he gets caught and hit. If it's anything longer than 5 minutes, we're done. I'll send a. But yeah, look, for me, the Gun Club is. I don't know what the plan is with them. They are on an unbelievable winning streak. They have not lost a match. Trios, tag, anything like.
They showed on Dynamite. They have a combined record of 87-7 or something. I'm like, Jesus, what the These dudes are they'd win an NBA championship with that. Get these guys into the ring.
Why these guys? Yes, they're beating just jobbers, but
sure. With
the record alone, they should be in the top 5 as a tag. They are undefeated. They're undefeated. They're number 1 trios team. They've not been defeated. No one has been able to beat them. And they're not doing it with that story. So I don't know what their plan is on there. I was worried that they're feeding them to the factory. But now the issue I've also got is now we've got a, and look, this is a criticism that I'd give to WWE as well. You've got the person who is challenging at a pay-per-view who got pinned. He shouldn't have been that. Why else is Solo there if not to get pinned?
I was going to say that, yeah. That's basically his job.
Yes, they could have lost, but it should not have been, it doesn't make sense the way that they did it, but they could have distracted QT to not be involved. So, there's another way around it which didn't involve QT getting pinned, and I just think that they shouldn't have pinned him because, again, he's got a pay-per-view match. So why am I interested in seeing Paul White fight QT Marshall when I've just seen him get pinned? Clean as a whistle.
Well, anyway, it's not exactly clean because he was distracted, but yeah.
Yeah, I know. This is meant to be quick hits, so that's all I'm saying on that.
I told you get the last word on it, so rest assured that I will be here after All Out, and I will be talking about QT Marshall so I can get all my thoughts in that. All I will say is this: push the Gun Club. Do
something with them.
All right, let's close the show by talking about everyone's favorite CM Punk. There was a lot of the reason that we've said this for the end is there was a lot of disjointed angles and segments and promos and stuff between Punk and Allin, and there was a match and all kinds of different things. So we've saved it all so we can lump it all together. The match that we can actually talk about is, of course, the trios match that went down on Dynamite. Darby Allin teaming up once again with Jon Moxley, Eddie Kingston to take on your favorites, the Wingmen. This was, in my opinion,
and that video got outdrawn by the Gun Club and QT Manufacturing.
All right. Look, I get you're salty. I get it. It's fine. It's okay. Look, I thought as far as a match, I thought this was fun. I thought it was, this was exactly what you wanted to see. The thing that will stand out to me is at the very end when Darby Allin was going to pin JD Drake, in full view of the camera, Sting is just beating the hell out of Cesar Bononi, and I'm like, that is a DQ. I mean, that's a legal man in this match. I understand that he wasn't the legal man, but he was a competitor, and Sting was not. And so I don't know if anyone else saw this, but this was one of my favorite parts of Dynamite, was after Allin hit the coffin drop, he went for the pin, and in the background, Sting is just running with Cesar Bononi to throw him into into the barricades. I really liked it because, look, that's something that Sting would do. He just beats the hell out of people. Anyway, the match itself I thought was good. But the overall story of CM Punk and Darby Allin, I wish either Sergi or Jacob was here, because both of them had this same idea about what the story of CM Punk and Darby Allin was going to look like, and it was this idea. And CM Punk, there is no better way to put over Darby Allin than for CM Punk to say that Darby Allin would be his favorite wrestler if he was 15 years old right now. I'm like, dude, like, you've just made Darby Allin a megastar. And Allin is already the success story of AEW. Like, the homegrown guy of AEW that became a star. And CM Punk is just solidifying that. So, as a story, you didn't have to do much to sell people on CM Punk's first match at All Out. But what they're doing, I think, goes above and beyond what we would expect. What I would have expected. I don't really know what I was expecting, but I'm having more fun with this than I thought I would. So, Anthony, on just a general level, what do you think about this CM Punk Darby Allin story that we're getting, possibly for the main event of All Out?
Yeah, look, it's fine. I need them to share the ring together and talk. Like, I want to see them actually interact beforehand. I know Darby's not a huge promo guy, but I'd just like to see them talk beforehand. But so far so good. Like, I've got no real complaints. The trios match, it was what it was. I don't think it wasn't as good as with 2.0 and Garcia.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that they were trying to recreate the same magic of what that was, but it just wasn't. 2.0, like, I love the Wingman and everything, but 2.0 are just funnier, especially with their Sting stuff. Peter Avalon was having a field day with that Sting stuff. And if that's what Sting's going to do, be a menace on the outside of the ring to all the other jobbers, good work, like, because that just creates some funny moments. I did catch that part with Cesar as well. That was quite funny. So, yeah, I think it just wasn't quite as good. Now, this week we've actually got Garcia versus Darby 2. It was just announced before we actually did this recording. So, where obviously he came out after the match. He's obviously got unfinished business. So, we're going to see another Darby match versus Garcia, which, I really like Garcia, but I don't need a second match so soon after each other. And, it just goes back into my whole thing previously saying, there's just a lot of rematches happening at the moment. Not only on the pay-per-view, but now up to the lead-up. It'll be interesting to see if maybe CM Punk comes and helps Sting clear out the ring, and then they just, look at each other. That's all I need. I just need them in the ring together before the pay-per-view. I think it will just be good to see.
Yeah. I sort of half expected when Garcia came out, I half expected CM Punk to come out and hit a GTS on him, because I feel like we got to see that once before the pay-per-view. Just a reminder to everyone, here's what CM Punk is about. Dude still got it. So I wonder if we're going to get that now next week on the go home.
Yeah. I think, maybe. Or are they saving it for the first GTS to be in Chicago and get that massive, overwhelming pop?
That's true. That's true.
To be honest, I'd do that. I'd just leave it.
I could definitely see that. Look, here's the reality. Kenta has a better GTS. I said it.
Oh yeah,
I said it.
I agree. He's the originator. Anyway, so yeah, look, I don't have an issue with it. I do want them to share the ring. It's all, he's putting him over as much as he can. Darby's the perfect opponent because he's going to bump like shit for him. He's going to make him feel he's going to make him feel 10 times stronger than anyone else. He's a perfect person for it. He's over enough to not get that. Everyone was worried about when Britt and Velvet went to fight in Pittsburgh that she was going to get all the boos. Darby's obviously meeting CM Punk in Chicago, but I think he's over enough for people to know It's okay to cheer a little bit for him. Obviously, everyone's going to be cheering for Punk, but people can still cheer for Darby, and that's what I think this is. There's no issues here. The story is just can I still go? Am I still the best in the world? He'll fight Darby, he'll beat Darby, and he'll prove that he can still go, and he'll look like $1 million. And Darby loses nothing because it's Darby Allin.
If anything, he gains something. In my opinion, especially if it's the main event, he's gonna gain. Like the loss is a loss, but what he's gonna gain from this, main event notoriety, and even if it's not, just he's the guy that brought CM Punk back into the ring.
He's CM Punk's first match, like that's massive. So in terms of this week's Dynamite, and that I wasn't a massive fan of it. Even Rampage. It left a lot to, especially with it being, the first Dynamite with Punk. It just did not feel like a Dynamite to me. It felt a bit lackluster. The one thing we haven't actually talked about is Miro versus Eddie.
Oh, well, that's true. I mean, let's talk quickly about that right now. Is that a match you're excited for?
Super quick. I love Eddie and Miro, and I can't pick between them, but I need them this week. They need to have a microphone each, and they need to have a promo off against each other. Yeah, it needs to happen. Yes, he's been calling him out. They need to be in the ring with each other, or even one in the ring, one on the ramp. I don't care. Yeah, they need to cut promos on each other. It has to happen to fully sell this match.
Yeah,
I'm already there.
I agree with that.
I'm already there, but the issue is, I want Eddie to win, but I don't want Miro to lose, because I think it's too soon for Miro to lose. He's on such an amazing run.
Yeah.
However, I think that this is the first time that AEW have misstepped a little bit. Now, the reason for that is that this is the first time that they've got a challenge. Well, actually, no, it's not. Don't mind that. It was that was the wrong thinking. Don't mind me. I was gonna say, this is like they've got him in a big match, like a big pay-per-view match, and he's out. Like, I know whenever they're gonna do a title change, they kind of put someone up the rankings first, or if they're gonna put them in a legitimate match, they like to put them up the rankings to get ranked first, and Eddie's not. So yeah, I think they could have had him winning some matches outside of this before the build-up to get on the rankings before this. Yes, I know Flago and Lee both weren't, but I think they were different circumstances. So yeah. Look, as long as I get a promo between the both of them, I'll be happy.
Yeah, honestly, that's really what I care about. This is the promo work of both men. This might be an unpopular opinion, and look, I don't want this to be taken as I don't like Eddie Kingston. I like Eddie Kingston as much as the next guy, and the next guy probably likes Eddie Kingston quite a lot. But I don't want to see him be champion, and the only reason for that is because the TNT champion has always, maybe with the exception of Brody Lee, but even then, not really. The TNT champion has always been able to put on great matches, good to great matches. Every TNT champion has been a tremendous worker and has put on that level of match. And look, Eddie Kingston just is not on that level. He is as good a promo as there ever has been in wrestling, and so for that reason, I always want to see him out there, because he can always cut a promo that makes me care about something he's doing. But as far as match quality goes, Eddie Kingston needs a story that he can sink his teeth into. Inarguably, the high point of his time in AEW came in his story with Mox, right? Where they're setting up for that I Quit match. And that was a match that, Moxley is a, I don't want to say a sloppy worker, because that has a negative connotation to it. He's a brawler, right? And brawling matches tend to be bowling shoe ugly, as JR would call it. Yeah. At the best of times, right? And Kingston is not on the level of guys, as far as workers, of guys that we've seen challenge for the world title. But that match I cared about more than almost any world title match because of the promo work, because that was a story they could sink their teeth into. I mean, they had a promo that almost made me cry. So that's what Eddie Kingston needs to do. The TNT champion doesn't really do that, right? The TNT champion tends not to have stories like that. In fact, the only one has really been Cody and Brody. That's the only like real story that we've seen for the TNT title. So
you could say Darby and Cody were also a bit of a story in that.
I'm not saying there's no story. I'm saying the kind of like very emotional, long, So
I know what you mean.
I don't want to see Kingston be champion because of that. Because I don't think that if you put Kingston against, say, a Lee Johnson, I don't think they would deliver the level of match that Miro was able to deliver against Lee Johnson. That's nothing against Eddie Kingston. It's just a natural limitation of who he is as a wrestler. I want to see him, but the most important thing is for us to see promos between Kingston and Miro. That's what will make me care about this match. Yeah. So I'm with you on that. They got it. They got to be in there. They got to do a promo together.
Yep.
You talked about Dynamite. I will say this about Dynamite as a whole. Excuse me. I know that a lot of people they were not particularly big fans of it. I mean, it's no secret on the website right now. If you go check out the stats, if you've been following along on ProWrestlingMusings.com, Craig does the write up. Craig compared this episode of Dynamite to Raw, which I think is very unfair in my opinion. Here's how I feel about it. And not that a lot of people would necessarily care how I particularly feel about it, but I think there are a lot of people who, will look at this and say, man, I think people are being kind of unfair to it. And I would say this. People can feel however they want about the show. If they didn't like it, they didn't like it. And I totally understand. For me, I judge a wrestling show based on how entertained am I watching this wrestling show. And in reality, from moment 1 to moment 120, the end of 2 hours of Dynamite, I was entertained. I was entertained by almost everything they did. I liked what I saw. In that sense, I liked this episode of Dynamite because of that. Did it move a lot of the stories forward? Debatably. Did it introduce new stories that I really care about? Only Punk and Darby Allin. So in that sense, is this a show that necessarily belongs 2 weeks before a pay-per-view? That can be argued. But for me, as far as entertainment value, every match they put on, was I at the very least entertained by what I saw? The answer for me is yes. As far as the segments and promos go, I was entertained by almost every one of them. So in that sense, there was no point where I was like, man, I'm not enjoying this show. Every point in it, I was enjoying what I was seeing. I think there's a lot of people that, they want nothing more from their wrestling than to just enjoy 2 hours of wrestling. And in that sense, I think that's what AEW delivered. I think Rampage, not as good in my opinion, but still, it was saved by that opening tag match, and it was saved by Giannis. That first 20 minutes, that was all the Rampage I needed. You gave me 20 minutes of great stuff. Yeah, it's good enough for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, look, I understand where you come from. And this is the thing with enjoyment. It's all subjective. As long as you enjoyed it, then who else cares? Me personally, I didn't. There was moments, especially when that Dan idiot got on the mic and did that. That UFC guy did that promo. I hated that so much, and it pulled me out of it. It made me not want to watch at all. That entire segment, I did not care for. It just felt very weak for me, especially with what the show was meant to be. That this was Punk's very first Dynamite. It's 2 weeks out from the pay-per-view, and this is what you're doing. It just seemed very, very weak. But like I said, that's my opinion, and my opinion is going to be different from the next person's and from yours. And as long as we all realize that, we realize, okay, cool, we've all got different opinions, but we can talk about them, and that's the main thing. Having honest conversations of, okay, why did you feel the way you did? Okay, this is why I felt that way. Why did you feel the way? Okay, cool. And, as long as we're doing that and not going, oh, well, your opinion's different, so you're wrong. That's right. Not the way to do this.
Exactly.
The only thing that you're wrong on is the factory being good. That's
Just wait till Go-Go comes back and wins the world title. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
All out. So what's going to happen is Danielson will come out, and then Go-Go is going to come out, punch him, and then just beat Kenny 1, 2, 3, world champion. Dan, bam, done. Factory rule AEW.
I'm not saying I want Go-Go to win the world title at All Out, but completely unironically, I would not be opposed to him punching out Bryan Danielson. That's all I'm saying.
So we got a few names for the women's battle royal, obviously. Do you think that it should be on the pre-show? Because this was actually a very big popular conversation, one that multiple of our PW Musing writers and contributors have joined in on. So I'd like your opinion. Do you think that the women's, considering that there's only one women's match on the card, should the battle royal be on the pre-show? And why?
So I'm of the opinion that regardless of whatever gender they are, if the match deserves to be on the pre-show, then it deserves to be on the pre-show. So the only thing that I'm wondering is how not confident are you in your next challenger that you're not gonna that you're not gonna put that on the main card. You know what I mean? When they did the men's, Jungle Boy was the one who was going to win that. So, yeah, you put that on the main show because that was a legendary pop. You know, when Jungle Boy won that was like, I went back and watched that 15 times. Is there a woman out there right now who could generate that level of buzz the way Jungle Boy did? Right
Thunder
now,
Rosa.
Maybe it is Thunder Rosa. So, to me, if Thunder Rosa is going to win, like, the question that comes for me is, should it be on the pre-show? I think generally speaking, Battle Royals, like, AEW does them better than almost any company in the world, in my opinion. But it's still, there's kind of a cap to them. So generally speaking, if you want to just put them on the pre-show, put it on the pre-show. I'll still be watching. But I think the bigger question is, why do you feel like you're not going to get something out of this the same way that you got something out of Jungle Boy, right? That's the bigger question, is why can't you give me someone that I want to see win on a main card in front of, 10,000 people or how many people they got in there for All Out? Why can't you put someone on there that's going to generate that level of excitement the way Jungle Boy did? I think that's the bigger question. As far as his position on the card, to me, it's, it's like I said, it goes into a bigger issue of why do we not have stars the same way as Jungle Boy, who had not been near a title match other than, he had one TNT title match with Darby Allin, never been near the world title, and yet people still reacted like that to him. Why can't you give me on the women's division the same kind of thing? So I think that's the bigger question of why it would be on the pre-show. I feel like there's probably, like, Paul White and QT Marshall, realistically, as far as match quality, that could be on YouTube before the pre-show, but people are going to react to that, right? So that's why it is where it is.
Personally, I'd have Andrade versus Pac on the pre-show.
Yeah, I think.
Start off with just a great match.
Yep.
Like I said, there's not much build there. Quite easy to tell, and just have a really, like they did with Riho and Serena Deeb, just have an amazing match.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Just get people primed. People are walking into that arena. They want to see something, so you walk in and boom, you got Pac and Andrade.
And so, the argument that they normally have is that, you're trying to sell the pay-per-view. This match is trying to sell the pay-per-view. No one is buying the match off of a battle royal, especially when you got CM Punk having his first match. So that argument's out of the question here for me. For me personally, I think it should be on the main card just because it feels, especially after the last two battle royals, the tag and the men's have both been on the main card. If they kept them all on the pre-show, there would be no issues here. The issue is that they've been putting these other men's ones on the main card, and now that you put the women's ones, it just feels, again, like they're not pushing it as high or equal as what they are with the men's, and that's some of the issues that I've been seeing on there. But you raise a good point. Why are they doing it? Is it because they just don't have faith? But that, again, it just leads to that common issue that the women's roster, not roster, sorry. it's just not booked as strong, and that's the real issue with AEW that's still persisting. And I think if they wanted to start to heal that and push it, putting it in the main card makes a million times sense. But that's again, there's lots of different opinions on this one. I think I just wanted your opinion, and I think that's a really good point of why are they pushing it down, and that's again, I think, just that issue of who do they have to win it. The two to win it, Thunder Rosa or Ty Conte, are your biggest pops that you're getting. Anyone else? And obviously we've got the rumor of Ruby Riott or Ruby Solo coming in as the Joker. Is she going to win and go straight into a title feud? That's something that you could have as well. Who we don't know at this stage. So I just wanted to have a chat about that, I think.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think because Britt Baker is your champion, you're in a weird position with who you're going to put there. Because if it is going to be Ruby Solo, Ruby Riott, whatever name she's going to go by, if it is going to be her, that's going to be your big return, and people are going to be cheering, and it's going to be, again, that whole, she's going to get used right, but then there's going to be that realization of, it's Britt Baker, and we still like Britt Baker, So I think for the tag, for both the tag and the singles battle royals for the men, the champions are the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. They are heels. People hate them. People want to see them lose, and in both cases, they gave us baby faces that people want to see win, especially Jungle Boy. So again, Britt Baker being the champion makes it weird because you get that big pop for whoever wins, but then that realization dawns that Britt Baker's still the champion, and yes, she's a heel, but we still want to see her be the champion. I think Thunder Rosa is your only hope of someone that the only person that people might legitimately want to see go over on Britt. I'm not even convinced on that, but if there is someone, I think it would be Thunder Rosa. As much as I love Ty Conti, I don't think it'll be her. I think if she wins, people will cheer, and then people will start to, the cheering will start to die down, because then they'll be like, oh, well, we're still going to cheer for Britt Baker when that match does happen. So, again, you're kind of, it's, in one sense, a good problem to have. You got an over champion, but I think that's where
it's a bit too soon for Ty, as much as I love her.
Yeah.
And what she's doing is just a little bit too soon for her.
Yeah, unless your idea is, well, not even then, because she's already had a world title match. So it's not even like you would put her in that position to say, hey, look, a little bit down the line, Ty Conti's a legitimate world championship contender. She already had one against Sheeta, so she's already on that level.
Yeah, we already know that she is. So yeah, it's like I said, like you said, who are you having to win? It's going to be the interesting thing. So
yeah, I don't know who would you take? Would it be Rosa for you?
Not yet. No.
I agree.
Obviously, with Conte, the issue again is we're coming up to this issue where the last two challengers have both not been number one contender until after they've done the challenge. Where Thunder Rosa obviously was. So if you're going to keep Thunder Rosa up high, you're going to have a challenge. It's the same argument I had with the Hangman Page that you can't keep them at the top of the card and not have them challenge for the title. It'll be interesting to see what they do. There was rumors apparently that they're preparing some battles between them for 2022. So early next year is probably when they're going to push that. By the sounds of that rumor, I can't remember which site posted it, so it's probably could be BS. Don't quote me on that one, but
it'll be an interesting one. And
I will say this. On the weekend, I watched NWA Empower, which, by the way, was a really good pay-per-view, and people should watch it. And Layla Hirsch had an amazing match with Camille, and I hope that when she comes back, she's pushed again because she really showed out. Same with Diamante. Diamante actually won. They had a inter-brand battle where they had NWA versus AAA versus AEW, and Diamante represented AEW and won that. She's currently in a feud. She's currently in a feud with Big Swole, where they're having a tag match this week against Big Swole and Julia Hart, and she's got Nyla Rose on her side. So I'm hoping that I'm thinking that she might win that one and it lead to another one-on-one match. Maybe no rules thing, but like they've got a lot there. They've got a lot going on and moving pieces, and they are building up stories and things that are happening. Like this week's match with Bunny and Ty Conte. The thing is, like the last couple of matches, they've had something happen to create the match. But the issue is that the thing that's happening is like either the day before or the match before, or a day before. They're not developing long-term stories, so they're getting half there. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I could talk about the women's division and what I think all day. Go watch NWA Empower. It's great.
All right, fair enough. Well, Layla Hirsch is for real. She is legit, if you will. I apologize for that. Look, there's lots of AEW to talk about. We got Dynamite, we got Rampage again next week, and of course, we have All Out. So, what exactly is the Pro Wrestling Musings schedule going to look like next week? I don't know. Talk to Craig on Twitter. I got no idea. All I can tell you is there will be content. There will be, look, you can, I'll give you an exclusive scoop here. We're going to have a video coming up on the YouTube channel about Darby Allin. So that's, if you're watching this till the end, just go check out the YouTube channel. Go check out Pro Wrestling Musings on YouTube, because you're not going to want to miss that. But there's going to be all kinds of stuff on Pro Wrestling Musings, ProWrestlingMusings.com. So make sure you're following along with all of our coverage of all things AEW moving into All Out and the impending in-ring debut of course, CM Punk. You knew what I was going to say. Anthony, please tell the people where they can find you.
Anthony at Down Under on Twitter. Check out my articles on Pro Wrestling Musings. In the next day or two, maybe 3 days, I'll have my next article, which looks at the YouTube statistics numbers of the rise and the pop of CM Punk, basically just going over each of the videos that have led up to it, and the numbers just showing how much he has done, and then I'm going to release a second one based on the Twitter stuff. So
beautiful.
Two things to look forward to, especially if you're a CM Punk fan, just to see just how many people have looked at these videos.
Beautiful stuff. Anthony does great work with all of the numbers analysis when it comes to social media, when it comes to TV ratings. I mean, he just did a couple articles talking about rematches in wrestling, so all kinds of great stuff coming from Anthony. Go check it out, ProWrestlingMusings.com. I am Griff from GA. Check me out on my personal YouTube channel, General Admission Wrestling. While you're there, if you're not already, subscribe to the Pro Wrestling Musings YouTube channel. Again, special Darby Allin video coming out before All Out, so make sure you're there to see that when it drops. Whether you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on Stitcher, wherever, make sure, give us a 5-star review. Reach out to us on Twitter. Let us know what you like, what you don't like. And make sure you're listening to us every week. We always have new Pro Wrestling Music content for you. And as I say, tons of it coming down the pike as we approach All Out. So, thank you all for being with us here for this episode of the Pro Wrestling Music Podcast. We will see you next time. We appreciate you guys. Thanks.